Let's go back to our breaking news story. The ANC's headquarters, Luthuli House in Johannesburg, has been evacuated. For more details, I'm joined by the head of the President's office at the ANC, Sibongile Besani. Thanks for your time. Just tell us what happened. Why did Luthuli House have to be evacuated?
Good evening and thanks for having me. Look, the headquarters had to be evacuated so that we fully comply with the protocols, because having people at the offices would amount to the breach of these protocols. And indeed, yesterday, we interacted with the representatives from LSWV during the whole day, but we also had to be quite considerate and humane because the discussions went until late. So we did not adequately comply with the regulations. We did our best to ensure that there are protocols in place, but they were not adequate. And having considered the situation today, we had to make sure that we adhere adequately with these protocols. That is why an evacuation process of those who are in the offices had to be undertaken.
Okay, so this is what's confusing in the statement released by the national spokesperson, Pule Malbe, and I'm going to read it, right? It said, on Tuesday evening, whilst discussions between delegations about practical arrangements were in progress, a breach of our headquarters took place. Now, if you read that, it makes it look as if the ANC's headquarters was breached while these discussions were happening. You're now telling me a different story.
No, it's not a different story. The point here is we had discussions yesterday and today. Yesterday, the discussions went until late. And we did our best to actually try to resolve the matters amicably. Today, we undertook the same process of ensuring that the matters, because the representatives were in our offices. And as we're giving feedback to the effect that we had to evacuate or adhere, we had to adhere to the protocols that relate to COVID-19. A group of comrades entered the building. So in that context, we then found it important and prudent that we excuse ourselves from engagements with people that we have not been engaging with. Because the group of about 20 came in and we then excused ourselves. So obviously, having people or being accommodated in the offices, it's a breach of protocol. So that is what the spokesperson or the statement of the ANC is saying. Okay, so that is why the offices had to be evacuated.
Okay, that makes sense. So tell me, this group of 20 people, what were they there for? What were they trying to do?
Now look, the group is more than 20 basically, but when we were still giving feedback on this thing, a group of 20 or more or less 20, I can't state precisely, because we're negotiating with the representatives. The issue here is that the military war veterans have been engaging with government, have met with government, and the president set a presidential task team last year, which is led by the deputy president. And when they arrived here, they felt that issues that relate to what they call a consensus document are not being adhered to, and they wanted to engage with the officials. And we indicated that the officials, actually we tried the officials were unavailable for them, and we had informed them a bit quite in advance because they wrote a letter last week, and they were informed that officials would not be available. But nevertheless, when they were present, we had to engage with them. And So they raised these issues of the consensus document. This is a matter that has to be dealt with government.
Yeah.
It's a matter that the Department of Military Veterans has to give attention to. So there was no way that as the ANC we could be able to deal with those matters. So there are issues related to the implementation of consensus documents, and those issues, as they elaborated, are clearly expressed.
Yeah. Very, very quickly, when you say that the discussions were ongoing and then a separate group of more than 20 people breached the offices, were they threatening anyone from the ANC? If so, why did you feel the need to evacuate?
No, accommodating people in the offices, it's a breach of protocol. You know, it does not matter. So what happened last night is that we accommodated people and we couldn't fully comply. So today we could not continue with breaching.
So it wasn't a breach in security, it was a breach in COVID-19 regulations because you had more people than was allowed. Is that what you're saying?
Evacuation, yes, it's almost both, but the evacuation relates to the breach of COVID-19 regulations, because when people entered in the middle of us giving feedback, it showed that they were now, because the issue was whether we should accommodate them in the building today. And the answer was no, we were unable to do so. Okay. So it was a breach of COVID-19 protocol. So the building, in the process, when people get into the office, extra people get into the offices without permission, it constitutes a breach of such. But in the main, the focus is on the breach of COVID-19 protocols.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Head of the President's Office at the ANC, Sibongile Besani.